I hadn't slept for 2 days, I hadn't eaten for 2 days, I had no friends to turn to, and my mum didn't trust me. I'm Jade. I would say I'm pretty much of a tomboy. Like sitting down playing a bit of Xbox. I love riding out on my moped. I grew up with my mum and my dad wasn't around, and she's been my idol since I was a little girl. I met my first boyfriend through a friend that I made at school. A couple months down the line, he revealed to me that he actually did smoke cannabis, and I told him I didn't want to know about it and he wasn't to do it around me. And then one day he brought it to my house and said that, you know, I've got to try it before I judge. I thought that quite a lot of the people in years above me were. I would say at least 50% of them all doing it. So I trusted him and I said, yeah, okay, then I'll give it a go. Then we actually broke up and I was really upset, I was depressed. I wanted to smoke every day because I thought it was helping me.
When cannabis is smoked, its main chemical, 9-tetrahydrocannabinol, passes from the lungs into the bloodstream and the brain. In the brain, it increases the release of dopamine, which makes the user feel happy and relaxed, or high. Dopamine works in what's called the reward pathway of the brain, which reinforces behaviour that feels pleasurable, encouraging users to smoke more cannabis and eventually to become dependent on it.
I would do it for fun to make me feel better, but then after a while I started to need it to go to sleep. I needed it to go out to get the confidence to do things. I was missing school because I couldn't even be bothered to go in. I just thought that I was being normal. I just thought, oh, I'm gonna have another day off, it's fine, it doesn't matter. So I was smoking with a group of boys and we went to a house party. I heard of methadone. It was legal as well at this point, and quite a lot of people were doing it and trying it out, so I've heard things about it.
Methadone, which is sometimes called meow meow, is part of a group of drugs called amphetamines, which include speed. It comes as a powder or pill and acts as a stimulant on the central nervous system, changing the chemical balance of the brain. Methadone increases the availability of neurotransmitters such as serotonin, dopamine and noradrenaline, which send messages across the brain affecting the user's mood, behaviour and sleep.
I think it just kind of became more of a curiosity as to why I wanted to try it. Like, after I had that first line, it really just gave me a confidence boost and, like, I just wanted to do it again and again. I think my mum, from the beginning, she realised that I was starting to hang around with, like, quite a big social group. So when I asked for money to go out, she was always like, yeah, that's fine, you know, you can go out with your friends. I kept going back to the flat where we were sniffing methadone, but I didn't always have the intention of doing it. If it was there and someone offered it to me, then I would. And then I think it kind of went on like that for about 2 months. When I did it, I would always get a numb face, like this tingling sensation in my face, and it would go really weird, and for a second I couldn't really see. You have a really big high, but the come down is just miserable. Like, you'll be so buzzed and so hyperactive, all of a sudden you'll just be depressed.
Methadone can raise the heart rate and blood pressure. In some cases, it can narrow the blood vessels, causing the blood flow to be reduced, and toes, fingers and even the face to feel cold, and in Jade's case, numb. The come-down effects include tiredness, dizziness, low mood and loss of memory. Trying to avoid these negative effects can lead to longer-term use, and eventually, addiction.
I would wake up in a sweat when my body's trying to get the drug out of my system, and I'd always just feel really ill, and it wasn't nice. I was always kind of depressed and just very, like, confused at what I have done the night before. A lot of the time people would point out how I was more moody or aggressive, but I wouldn't think twice about it. I thought that I was the same normal Jade at this point, and obviously I wasn't. I was never really in the right state of mind. If somebody offered me a drug, I would take it. I would never ask them what it was. I just saw it and took the drug and hoped I was all right later. It was really dangerous. The girl that I was picking up with every day, I sent her a text once to come round to my house after school to have a smoke, and her mum actually found her phone and read the text. She then told my mum. My mum said that she didn't think I was loyal anymore, she didn't want me around, she didn't trust me, she didn't want to give me money, and that was it for me and her. Our relationship had completely gone, and it was up to me whether I rebuild it again. That really hurt me, that I'd hurt her that much after everything she'd done for me. I was very motivated to give up when I spoke to my mum. So we decided that I was going to quit from there. After a while, it kind of got to the point where I would just go downstairs and be like, look, I'm feeling anxious, can we have a chat? She spoke to me as if this was my life, it was my decision, and if I was going to change, it was going to be down to me. I could have made better decisions. I could have turned to my friends or my family instead of turning to drugs when I was upset or angry. It's always made out to be so glamorous and fun, but it's not actually as good as everyone thinks.
I'd been kicked out of my home. None of my old friends wanted to know me, and my chances of becoming a professional footballer had died. I'm Lorne. I'm a football fanatic. I like to keep busy, jogging when I have spare time, gym, and I think I'm a friendly guy. As a teenager, I played football at a professional level. For me personally, it was a huge achievement. Started a new college to pursue my dreams of being a footballer. A lot of my other friends, they weren't with me and I was alone. So I had to find a new group of friends. I could tell that they weren't all like me, but I had no one else there, so I was willing to just hang out with them at break and lunch because I didn't want to be alone. I remember it was one lunchtime. They were smoking weed. One of them asked me if I wanted some. At first I said no. Then after a while they kept asking. I think peer pressure just built on me, and eventually just said yeah, and from there everything went wrong, really. The first couple of times I got high, I didn't like it as much. It was okay. It made my head go lightheaded, and I got heavy eyes, and then my body just relaxed.
Cannabis increases the release of dopamine, which affects the brain's reward pathways, reinforcing pleasurable behaviour. As cannabis can make users feel more relaxed and less anxious or high, it can also cause them to want to maintain these sensations, leading to longer-term use and even addiction.
I went from doing it once a week to maybe 3 times a week now. It was weird, because I didn't expect it to happen, and I didn't even notice how much I was using it at the time. I started to feel the need to bunk off college a bit. which is something I would never have done before, to go chill out with these boys and smoke weed. And it started to get worse and worse. It got to a stage where I was getting in trouble at college. I mean, it got really bad. Started smoking so much weed, I started to get lazy. They kicked me out of college and then formed a semi-professional team. It affected me big time. I was always walking around on the football pitch and that wasn't me. Fitness, I couldn't run for more than 5 minutes at once. Started missing training, only turning up when I wanted to, when I felt in the mood for it. And they kicked me out as well. My decision-making was terrible at that point. Because I became a lazy person, I was always taking the lazy option.
Although cannabis makes users feel high, it also has a number of physical and psychological side effects. As the body relaxes, its coordination is impaired and reaction times decrease, affecting the user's attention and concentration, leading to a feeling of inactivity or laziness.
At this point in my life now, I was smoking every day, so I'm always high, you know. I didn't think much about what I was doing. The effect at home it was messing everything up. Because my grandmother, living with her, she knew something was wrong, so we started to fall out. I grew distant from my sisters, brothers. I started to feel like I couldn't go without it. I was at a stage in my life where I needed to do it, so I was dependent on it. You feel me? As soon as I woke up, I'm thinking about it, so that's dependency right there in itself, no? I think at this point I was addicted. I've gone from a positive person to a very, very negative person in the space of a couple of months, and it was only getting worse. And then arguing with my grandmother every day. And then I don't think she had another choice, you know, she had to kick me out. And one of my friends said I could come stay with him. At this point, when I'm living with my friend and we're smoking every day, you know, I gave up on wanting to be a professional footballer. I wasn't talking to none of my family at this stage. I could have been sleeping under a bridge, and they wouldn't have known. The paranoia was the worst for me. I couldn't go into public places because I thought that people were staring at me, constantly staring and talking about me. Walking home at night, I was always looking over my shoulder. So I'm at this point in my life with my friend, living at his, smoking weed every day. We were driving around and I was smoking cannabis in the car with him, getting up to no good. And then out of nowhere, we've gone off the road and crashed. Really bad crash. Gone to hospital from there and found out that I've broken my arm in 5 places. That day, for me, was the scariest point because I thought that my whole life could have finished there. And I wasn't even 20 yet, you know, I still had so much to offer. And it wasn't going the way I wanted it to go. I was just sitting in a hospital bed day and night, you know, not smoking. It gave me a chance to think about things, think about what I was doing and what I should be doing and how to change. One of my old football friends, he turned up and he had football and his football boots in his hand. And that gave me a feeling that I wanted to walk around in my football boots again rather than with a spliff in my hand. Smoking weed, yeah, you're having fun, you're enjoying yourself, but there's so many consequences, and I lost a lot of things that I shouldn't have. Shouldn't have let myself get that low. If I had a second chance, what would I have done differently? I would have walked away that first day that they asked me if I wanted to try it, 100%.
was being taken into A&E, fearing for my life. I thought I was going into a coma, and I didn't even break the law. I'm Rose, I'm 18 years old, I live in a small village and I like to play the guitar. I think someone else would describe me as happy, bubbly, a bit of a dreamer. It was a weekend in the summer and I wasn't expecting to be doing anything, but then one of my friends called me and asked me to go to a festival that was happening in town. I was just expecting to have a dance, have a good laugh. I just thought it would be a really good day. We were just walking to one of the stages and then we bumped into a bigger group of people. When we was all together, one of the guys that I kind of knew just started rolling up a joint. He started offering it round, so I asked him what it were and he said it was a legal high called Pandora's Box. Because it was legal, I thought that it was okay to smoke it. And because everyone else was doing it, I thought that it was all right. I just took a few drags and just made me a bit lightheaded and a bit giggly. We were just dancing, having a laugh. Everyone was having a good time. It lasted for maybe about an hour.
Legal highs are synthetic chemicals which produce the same or similar effects to illegal drugs, in Rose's case, cannabis. These drugs can affect the cardiovascular system, particularly the way in which we control blood pressure. Reductions in blood pressure, along with the effects on the brain, may be the cause of Rose's lightheadedness.
After we were dancing, the same guy that gave it to me before came over and started rolling another joint. It got passed around. I asked what it were, and then one of the other people said it was Pandora's Box. So I just thought, yeah, I'll do it. I smoked it, and about 30 seconds later, I started to feel really, really sick. It just felt like whatever I had taken started to take over my body and like take over my senses because no one else reacted the same way as I did. I was absolutely terrified. One of my friends stood up and asked if someone would come to the toilet with him. I got up and started trying to follow him to the toilet. I looked down and it felt like the floor wasn't underneath my feet anymore. It felt like my legs weren't attached to my body anymore. Everything was just rushing past me like a motorway. I couldn't see. Everything was a big blur. Not being able to feel my own limbs, it was like the most terrifying thing that had ever happened to me in my life.
The effects of legal highs are unpredictable, and they can affect different people in different ways. In Rose's case, it disrupted the function of the cerebellum, which controls the body's coordination and explains why she had difficulty walking. They can also cause blurred vision and possibly affect the visual pathways of the brain that interpret images from the eyes, causing Rose to feel things were rushing past her.
I realised that my friend had disappeared and gone somewhere else, but I didn't want to turn back to go to the other people because I didn't want them to think that I was overreacting. So I just carried on walking. I felt like that I couldn't stand up anymore. I just thought I really need to sit down or I'm going to fall over. I felt that I was drifting in and out of consciousness, and every time that I closed my eyes, I felt that maybe I weren't going to open them again. I thought that at one point that I were going to maybe die or maybe go into a coma. I think I was extremely vulnerable where I were, especially it was because it was away from everybody. And I was on my own. The next thing I knew, there was 2 paramedics in front of me checking my blood pressure. I was drifting in and out of consciousness for about an hour, and the paramedics decided that my condition got so bad that they had to call an ambulance and take me to A&E.
It's likely that whatever Rose took altered the concentration of various neurotransmitters in her brain, responsible for coordinating messages across the brain and to the rest of her body. They may have increased the function of GABA, that normally slows down the brain, but decreased the function of glutamate, that normally speeds up the brain. This, combined with effects on the arousal centre of the brain, known as the reticular activating system, may have caused her to lose consciousness.
When I got to A&E, my parents were there and they were terrified. I hugged my mum and she started crying. I was in A&E for maybe about 3 hours. And the effects wore off, so my parents drove me home. A couple of days after, some people messaged me and told me that I was overreacting and that I was being stupid. It made me feel kind of upset that they didn't believe that the experience I had was real and that they thought that I'd fake that. Looking back on that now, it makes me feel kind of stupid for trusting the people that gave it to me. And I felt stupid that I'd put myself in that position with, like, all my family worrying about me. Because it said legal, I thought it was okay.
I dropped out of university. I was nearly kicked out of my family home, and nobody trusted me. I'm Sam. I'm from London. I'm quite a chilled out, open-minded kind of guy. I'm into my hip-hop and my drum and bass. I come from quite a big family. I've got 3 brothers. My first experience with weed was, or with any kind of drug, was when I was 12 years old. The pattern was I'd go to school, I'd come home, I'd watch a bit of TV, and then I'd smoke a spliff. That went on for about, I don't know, 6 months or a year before I started actually doing it during school and after school and just every waking moment. When I was 15, I went to my first music festival. At that festival, I came across ketamine and tried it. And I took to it. I really took to it. It was a whole new thing for me.
Ketamine is a clear liquid or powder. It's a powerful anaesthetic which is misused by drug users who snort it, inject it, or swallow it. It can alter the levels of neurotransmitters in the brain, creating the feeling that the brain is shutting off from the body. Under its influence, the mind can also begin to perceive things that aren't really there, known as hallucinations. All this causes a sense of mind-body separation, with loss of control and a feeling of floating.
It was the same as the weed. I started doing it in the evenings, on the weekends, you know. I'd get a bit and it would last me a few days, and then slowly I'd start doing it every day. And then I'd do a line in the morning before I went to school. Just, yeah, it became completely out of control. I barely scraped by through my GCSEs and A-levels, but I became motivated to try and go to university, which I managed to get into. I went to Brighton University. When I was at uni in Brighton, my life was completely controlled by my drug taking, and so I wasn't able to focus on anything.
The anaesthetic effect of ketamine reduces the brain's alertness, leading to difficulties of movement and concentration. Users need more and more ketamine to counteract these side effects, which can lead to addiction. The combination of altered mental function and addiction can reduce the user's ability to focus on anything except the next dose.
I was completely wasted every day, walking around like a zombie. I failed the courses that I were on. It ended up with me moving back to London, back to my parents. I built up a reputation within my family as somebody that you couldn't trust. I mean, sometimes when I was on the ketamine and I'd come down to the dinner table, I'd think that I'm all right, but then I'd try and talk and I couldn't speak, and it would just be a very, very ugly thing for my parents to have to see. You know, constantly being told, you know, that I'm not making any sense, and yeah. My parents reached out to me. They tried to help, and I refused to help. They threatened to kick me out of the house, but they couldn't because they were scared that I would end up dead or in jail. It eventually all caught up with me. I started getting stomach cramps, and these were very extreme, probably the most painful thing that I've ever experienced. I started getting kidney pains, which I didn't know were kidney pains. I just thought it was a pain in my lower back. I used to get terrible problems with my bladder, so I would have to go to the toilet constantly. I was passing blood in my urine regularly. Every time I went to the toilet.
Long-term use of ketamine can damage the bladder, impairing its ability to stretch sufficiently as it fills. It's thought the urine effectively backs up, swelling the kidneys, causing pain and possibly even kidney failure. The lining of the bladder can also be damaged, producing blood in the urine.
It doesn't matter how bad the pain is, how serious the symptoms are. You know, I wasn't going to be stopping taking that drug because I was addicted to it completely and totally. I stopped really mixing with people. I didn't spend time with my friends or with my brothers. I was on my own most of the time. I didn't really want people to know how bad things were, and it was a miserable point in my life. My dad kind of blew a fuse. He gave me the choice that I can either leave the house, you know, and basically never come back, or he would help to put me into rehab and try and sort out my problem. And so I accepted the help that he offered me. And within a week, I was in a residential treatment centre for drug addiction. You just feel so far apart from that whole world of the hard drugs when you're young that you tend to not, well, I tended to not listen a great deal to when stuff was being said about them.